conditioned souls. Jai Vansha Kalpa Tarubhyascha. Kripa Sindhu Vyavacha. Patitanam Pavanebhyo. Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. That's not online. This is online. The other one's online. I'll check it out. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, the internet's working. It's just. Yeah. Ooh, it's not working on my phone either. Wait a second. Hold on a second. Call for Jack.
Jared, he's up already.
What?
Jared is up already.
Is he up?
He was chanting at the house.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
There you go. Just open it. Yeah, text them the internet is down. It's on this thing. This thing is working. It's just, the Wi-Fi is just down. It's the Wi-Fi. No, but this thing is on. That's hardwired. Hey, all right. Yes, the Wi-Fi router that's down. Jaya Radha Madhuva Kunnabe Ragati Jaya Radha Madhuva Kunnabe Ragati Gopi Janapala Gurba Iri Bhadatagute Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tera Manachare Yamuna Tera Manachare Jaya Rad Madhova Kunjabi Hauti Jaya Rad Madhova Kunjabi Hauti Gopi Jana Balagoba Irivadu Dhavuti Gopi Jana Balagoba Irivadu Dhavuti Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachauti Yamuna Tira Vanachauti Jaya Ranambadhuva Kunyabihahuti Jairat Madhuva Kunyabihahuti Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidikacharya. Also tell us that Shimad, His Divine Grace. Abhaya Chananada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anandakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Premise Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Gopinath Syamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuranam Ki Jai Navadiptam Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dejatarni Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, 69th Chapter, Text 44. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Oops. Evam Manusha Padavim Anuvartamano Narayano Akila Bhavaya Grihita Shakti Reme Anga Sodasha Sahasra Avarangananam Sa Rida Sorada Nirikshana Hasa Jushta What? Louder? I know that. I figured it out. Evam manusha padavim manuvartamano. Whoops. Went ahead. Narayana Kila Bhavaya Grahita Shakti. Reminga Soda Shasahasra Varangananam. Savrita Sauridani Rikshana Hasa Jushta. Evam Manusha Padavim Manavartamano. Narayana Kila Bhavaya Grahita Shakti. Reminga Soda Sasahasra Varangananam. Savrita Sauridani Rikshana Hasa Jushta. Evam Manusha Padavim Anuvartamano. Narayana Kila Bhavaya Grahita Shakti. Reminga Soda Shasahasra Varangananam. Savrita Sauridani Rikshana Hasa Jushta. Okay. Okay. Evam, thus, Manusha, of human beings. Padavim, the path. Anuvartamana, following. Narayana, the Supreme Lord Narayana. Akila, of everyone. Bhavaya, for the welfare. Grihita, having manifested. Shakti, his potencies. Reme, he enjoyed. Anga, my dear King Parikshit. Sodasha, 16. Sahasra, 1,000. Vara, most excellent. Angananam, of women. Savrida, shy. Sovrida, and affectionate. Nirikshana, by the glances. Hasa, and laughter. Jushta, satisfied. Translation. In this way, Lord Narayana imitated the ways of ordinary humans, manifesting his divine potencies for the benefit of all beings. Thus he enjoyed, dear king, in the company of his 16,000 exalted consorts, who served the Lord with their shy, affectionate glances and laughter. You can repeat. In this way, Lord Narayan imitated the ways of ordinary human beings, manifesting his divine potencies for the benefit of all beings. Thus he enjoyed, dear king, in the company of his 16,000 exalted consorts who served the Lord with their shy, affectionate glances and laughter. So there is no purport by the followers of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, but there are very interesting purports by the Acharyas here, so I wanted to read them before I spoke. So, of course, first we have Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who says, why should the Lord have faith in Artha and Kama? This verse answers, why does Krishna follow the path of men? For welfare of all people, Akila Bhavaya, humans easily remember human actions. By remembering such pastimes, this should be by remembrance, of such pastimes of the Lord, he makes them free from the material world. Why should he stop their material existence? Because Krishna is endowed with Kripa Shakti, mercy, Grihita Shakti. But this is not the only purpose for permanently engaging in human actions. Permanently. This is interesting. I'm going to explain what that means. He does it for his own beloved women with human form expanded from himself, who are more attractive than even Lakshmi and others, in that human-like form which is the source of all the Vaikuntha Vishnu forms. And he does it for eternal pleasure. He enjoys Reme eternally with them, and then Jiva Goswami. This verse describes the mutual love between the Lord and his consorts. He followed the conduct of a human being. He was the form who expands into all Narayan forms. He was the chief Narayan, Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, for the benefit of all of his expansions, since they were all within him. That's interesting, too. Benefit of all of his expansions. Accepting his Shakti, he enjoyed attaining pleasure with by the smiles and glances, filled with the friendship and shyness of 16,000 women. Finally, Sanatana Goswami, he manifested his powers for the benefit of all beings. For this purpose he appeared as an avatar, since he was directly Bhagavan Narayana, and acting as a human being in the way described he enjoyed. Or through performing human pastimes, he manifested powers for the benefit of all people, showing household dharma by manifesting many forms capable of household dharma in the houses of many queens. Or he manifested powers for benefiting all the houses, Akila Bhavaya, by having one form appear separately in all houses, since he is the shelter of all jivas, Narayana. The reason for his enjoyment is given. He was served by the shy, affectionate glances and laughter of the queens, whose limbs were beautiful or more pleasing than like the Lord's Anga. Or, O king, Anga, or he was served by or pleased with the shy glances and laughter in prema sorida. So, again, the verse. Back to the verse. Evam manushapadadim anuvartamano narayano kilabhavaya grihita shakti remenga sodasha sahasra varangananam savrida sorida devikshanaha sajushta. So Omaganat Mirandasha Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shigurveda Maha. So I'm going to talk about two topics today, one relating to the last part of the verse and the first part relating to the first part of the verse. So the last part of the verse talks about the reasons for the Lord manifesting in this world. And it's interesting. I actually thought about 5 different reasons that the Lord appears in this material world. And the first one, of course, we do know the Lord has his esoteric purposes and exoteric purposes. I want to preface the discussion with that. But the first one is his, I guess it's esoteric and exoteric. For the pleasure of his devotees, he comes down just to please his devotees who are here on this earth, preaching Krishna consciousness, like we see Narada Muni is here on this earth preaching Krishna consciousness. He is completely Krishna conscious already, so he doesn't need to see Krishna in Dwarka to become Krishna conscious like the rest of us. Because he's already self-realized, he can travel to the spiritual world and see all these things in the spiritual world. So that's the first purpose, to give pleasure to devotees like Narada Muni. And interestingly enough, actually I want to make reference to this. In the last verse, we find, of course I guess this is an advertisement. So in the last verse, we find when Narada Muni leaves Krishna, he gets all sorts of gifts. So when a sannyasi visits a grahasti, he should get all sorts of gifts. Anyway, so I just want to mention that because I was inspired, even though it doesn't have anything to do with the topic of today's class. So, that's the first point. For the pleasure of his devotees. And a second point is that he comes to attract those who are not already devotees so they can understand the nature of God and become attracted to the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like us, before I joined the Krishna Conscious movement, I heard about Krishna stealing butter and feeding it to the monkeys, and I became very attracted without even knowing any aspect of the philosophy. Krishna, can I get some water? Definitely need something to wash down the whatever's in the throat. So, just like before I came to the movement, she's getting it. I already took one. Thank you anyway for offering. I was fisherman's friends, but I still follow don't eat fish. So, thank you. That's better. Just like before I came to the movement, I got a chance to read Krishna book, and I got attracted to Krishna even without knowing anything about the philosophy. And also I got attracted to Srila Prabhupada even without knowing much about the philosophy, because Krishna is manifest through his own activities and through the activities of his devotees. And the third reason Krishna comes down is to set a good example. We talked about this, or the devotees talked about this in the previous classes. Yad yada charity, shreshtas tatayat evaitharojanaha. And the fourth one is to actually enjoy the relationship with his devotees and up-and-coming devotees, even in this world, because there's certain rasas or relationships that can be only fully experienced in this world, such as the relationship of ghastliness, the indirect rasas of ghastliness, and other things. So there's certain things that Krishna comes down just to enjoy in this material world, and the final reason Krishna comes is for compassion, out of his unlimited compassion, which is mentioned here. So these are the reasons for Krishna coming down to this world. Sorry. Actually, can't control it. But what I wanted to talk about, perhaps even more interesting, was the statement in this verse where it says, Lord Narayan imitated the ways of ordinary human beings. Now that can be understood almost like a sarcastic statement, because the ways of ordinary human beings are what? Anyone know? Imitations of Lord Narayan's pastimes. So Krishna is imitating what is being imitated. And this also proves the point that previously we were Krishna conscious living entities, because how could we imitate something that we didn't have any understanding of? Just like Prabhupada gave the example of a young girl who sees her mother cooking, and she imitates the mother. She wants a play stove, and she imitates the mother, and she makes a bunch of mud pies, which are not very tasty. So, in other words, we are imitating Krishna. And this is mentioned specifically, well, here's my Bhagavad Gita, in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we find many interesting verses, and I'm going to read some of them, that describe this imitation, how this material world is actually, let me go back to the beginning here, this material world is actually a reflection of the spiritual world, or an imitation of the spiritual world. And of course, the example that Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 15th chapter, which is called the Yoga of the Supreme Person, is he talks about a banyan tree. I'm going to read some of the verses. The first verse in the 15th chapter is, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is said that there is an imperishable banyan tree which has its roots upwards and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. So the Vedic hymns that are referred to here are generally, Chandamsi, the Vedic hymns meant for material upliftment. Interesting. Just like Krishna, in this particular pastime, and the pastimes being described here, he's performing many Vedic ceremonies that are not directly Krishna conscious, that are actually dealing with the material world. For example, you have Krishna previously doing what? Worshipping the demigods. Isn't that interesting? So Krishna is supposed to set an example for us, yad yad acharya sreshtas, tata divaitharojanaha. Yet he's worshiping the demigods. So should we worship the demigods? No. But Krishna is so merciful, that's the final purpose of his coming down, which I mentioned before, compassion, that he does things that are materialistic. Apparently for him it's not materialistic. That are apparently materialistic to encourage people on a lower stage. Because that lower stage is definitely the modes of nature. One who worships the demigods is definitely in the modes of nature. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says to Arjuna, Trigunya Vishaya Veda Nistrigunya Bhavarjana Nirdvandvo Nitrasapvasto Niryoga Shema Abnavan. The Vedas are mainly dealing with the three modes of nature. They're not mainly dealing with transcendental things, just like we talk about the Vedic hymns. Rig Veda, 90% of the Rig Veda hymns are worship not only of demigods, but primarily Indra. You know, I would think if I wanted to worship a demigod, I would go for the, Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva. That would be my choice, wouldn't it? But they're primarily to Indra, just like you see there was the Indra sacrifice that was going to be born. Why is that? Because the Vedic culture was traditionally an agricultural culture. And in an agricultural culture, you're concerned with what? Anyone know? Rain. You don't want there to be too much rain. You don't want there to be too little rain. And you hear this description many, many times, like in the Ramayana, that King Romapad was upset. Romapad means the king with hairy feet. He was upset because there was a drought in the kingdom. You hear this all the time. And even in the Bible, the Old Testament, isn't it, you have this, wasn't it David who predicted like 7 years of drought, of plenty, and 7 years of Joseph, sorry. Forgive me. Joseph Ubacha. So anyway, so he predicted 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine from no rain. So you hear this all the time. There's concern with rain. So it's an agricultural culture the Vedas were based in. So mainly they're worshiping Indra because he's the rain god. Interesting. It's actually interesting thinking about it. So Krishna says all these things are materialistic. And of course in the Bhagavad Gita, he also says, Avidi Purvakam. Those who worship the demigods are doing the wrong thing. Basically, he gives that instruction to Arjuna. So why is Krishna worshiping the demigods? Because people are materialistically inclined, and Krishna wants to give them some connection with him, because the Vedas are manifest through the breathing of the Supreme Personality of God, and Krishna wants to give them a gradual process of achieving him. So people have to do this step by step, just like Krishna also describes. Even in the Bhagavatam, we have a description of the universal form. I'm not going to meditate on the universal form. I'm not attracted to the universal form. To me, it's just, some devotees I've seen, they have a big poster of the universal form on their wall. To me, there's absolutely no attraction. I don't want to see it. Sorry, I don't want to see it. But many people like to see it because it reminds them of the greatness of God. And it's actually, people who want to get into that awe and reverent mood. So in other words, Krishna presents something for everybody. Krishna gives an example for everybody. And we know which example to follow because we have the guidance of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, in understanding which example of Krishna we follow. We don't follow Krishna's example. Krishna drinks, certain things. Krishna drinks honey wine and gets intoxicated. Do we follow that example? Balaram gets intoxicated on Varuni beverage. Do we follow that? No. Anyway, so that's why we have a spiritual master. So, anyway, so these Chandamsi, these verses in the Vedic literature, are the process by which one jumps from one part of. It's interesting thinking about it. That's why it's described as the leaves here. One jumps from one part of the material world to another. or achieves different things in the material world. So that's the purpose of the Vedas. The ultimate purpose, of course, is what? To get out of the material world, as Krishna says in 15:15, same chapter, of course. Vedaishchaya savera vavedyo, is to get out of the material world, not to remain in the material world, but to understand the different steps that are there to help the poor conditioned souls getting out of the material world. So that's the first verse in the 15th chapter. So it's interesting. I just found it interesting in regard to the verses we're reading now. The second verse is the branches of the tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. So here we are jumping from one branch, one leaf to another, based in the Vedic system, based upon following different sub-religious principles or preliminary practices in the Vedic literatures. And in order to, the reason we're jumping from one branch to another is because we want to enjoy sense enjoyment, which is the next verse here, next line. The twigs are the objects of the senses. So in other words, we're jumping like rabbits or whatever. Monkeys. Yeah, thank you, that's better. Jumping like monkeys from one branch to another because these branches have twigs on them. It's interesting, isn't it? And these twigs are the objects of the senses. So we're running to one restaurant or another restaurant or one girlfriend to another girlfriend or boyfriend, as the case may be. And this tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruit of actions of human society. So the more we perform the karmic activities, the more we get bound in this material world, bound to this material world. Okay, very interesting. And then, without Krishna consciousness, hold on a second, we'll never understand, I'm just going to paraphrase this, the real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends and where it begins and where its foundation is. In other words, you don't get out of this tree without taking superior direction. But with determination, one must cut down the strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything is extended since time immemorial. In other words, sarvasya prabhu matak sarva pravartate, or anyway. And then Krishna gives us the way to become detached in the next verse, which is actually one of my favorite verses. Nirvana moha jita sangha dosha vyatma nicha vinivrita kama dvandvar vimuktar sukha dukkha samgyar gachancha muda padamavyam tat. Actually, I know the verse, so I don't have to read it. Nirvana moha, being free of all sorts of prestige. That's the first point Krishna makes, to become detached from this material world, from this reflection of the spiritual realm. Because we are imitating Krishna, who has the most prestige. You know, Krishna says, imitating us, he says, Ishwaraham, aham bogi siddhoham balavan sukhi. So that is our false prestige. I'm the controller. I'm the enjoyer. Ishwaraham, aham bogi siddhoham, perfect, I'm powerful, happy. And Krishna says exactly the same thing about himself in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, text 29. Bhoktaram jagatarpasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam getva mam shantim richati. I'm the enjoyer, the Lord of all the worlds. And then, of course, in the 10th chapter, Ham Sarvasya Prabhu Matak Sarvam Pravarte, isn't it? So we have all these different verses where Krishna indicates that we have to give up our own conception of ourself, or upadi is about ourselves. Upadi means designation. Sarvopadi vinir muktam. So nirmana moha, giving up this false prestige. And how do you give up the false prestige? Manina manadena. By serving Krishna and serving everyone. Amanina manadena. Of course, then kirtanya siddhahare. So nirmana moha, being freed from false prestige, being freed from moha, illusion. Jitta sangha dosha, which is something that Prabhupada emphasized so much in the beginning days of the movement, and he continued to emphasize it, which is giving up the association, bad association. Or as the Nectar of Instruction says, Sangos Chagat. Same thing. Sangos Chagat. Give up bad association. Nirmana Moha. Jita Sangha. Conquer. Jita. Sangha Dosha. That means conquering bad association. Avyatma Nitya Vinivrita Kama. Becoming free from lust. And Avyatma Nitya, becoming established in the eternal nature of the Lord. Vinivrita Kama. Dvandvar Vimuktar. Being free from all sorts of duality, like I and mine, pleasure and pleasure and suffering, happiness, distress, heat and cold, summer and winter seasons, like we're experiencing now. And Dvandvar Vimukta, sukha, like sukha and dukkha, known as happiness and distress, sukha dukkha sangyar. Gachancha mudha padamyavyam tat. Anyway, so that's how we can overcome this reflection of the Lord's pastimes. And so at the present time, we are imitating, the point I'm making is we're imitating Krishna. And so we have to give up this whole concept that we are Krishnas. We are Krishna. We are little Krishnas. We are not. We're parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. We are not Krishna. And once we give that up, then we will no longer imitate Krishna. And then Krishna, in order to attract us, he comes and imitates us. But we, again, just to reiterate, but we are imitating him, and he's imitating us. You understand? We're imitating him, and Krishna's imitating us, who are imitating him. It's a double imitation. So anyway, some questions or comments? We got 2 more minutes. Yeah. Yeah, we have common characteristics with Krishna, in small quantity. We also have a tendency to enjoy, but we can only enjoy when connected to Krishna. But the soul inherently doesn't have the tendency to be the controller. That particular tendency is there in Krishna, and it's only there when we're imitating him. Does that make sense? There's certain tendencies Krishna has that we don't have, like to be the supreme controller. Little controllers, yeah, that's our problem. We got to let. Yeah. Right. Yeah. We don't meditate. Krishna has the tendency to meditate on himself, and our perverted tendency is to meditate on ourselves. But spiritually, we don't have a tendency to meditate on ourselves. In the spiritual world, they're meditating on giving Krishna pleasure. And their conception, they have a conception of themselves, but that conception is in relationship to pleasing Krishna. So, any other questions? Yes. What's that? Emotional recreation. Can you translate that for me? I'm not familiar with that term. Do you understand that? Emotional recreation? Oh, and trying to enjoy the rasas. Oh, the mind. Manasakstani indriyani prakriti stani karshati. Yeah, everything's in the mind. All enjoyment is in the mind. It's not external. All enjoyment's in the mind. Because based on the state of the mind, you can enjoy anything, the conditioning. Just like Prabhupada gives the example, the pig enjoys what? Still, because the pig's mind is actually... Okay.
Purusham Namaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Agom Vikamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakale Kriya Priti Manti Vasyan Divan Dikayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham Namaham Bhajami Govindam Adi Purusham.
Kirtan in the morning. We're going to open up our room door and the window so our supervisor can hear Kirtan. You'll be woken up with kirtan. You understand? This way he'll be woken up with the holy names. Jeev Jago. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Putale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Samaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vachar Neki Nivesesha Shunavare Vasachare Satarane Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pramanachanana Shidwaita Gurana Siva Sati Gauravata Vrinda Shri Krishna Nana Pramanachananda Shidwaita Gurana Siva Sati Gauravata Vrinda Shri Krishna Nana Pramanachananda Shidwaita Gurana Siva Sati Gauravata Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Rate. Radhe, Radhe. Radhe, 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 Radhe. Jai Om Vishnupada. Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radhakunda Giva Radhika Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari All glories to Sambhava. All glories to Sambhava.
Saturday is the big parade in Cary, and it begins at 10 o'clock. I think we're going to be assembling earlier than that, but more announcements should be coming out about directions for all that. But it's one of the biggest parades we do. It's very nice, and we usually get the last slot right in front of Santa, so they save the best for last. Chaito darpanam marjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Adanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahudan Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smarane Nakala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrishami Hajjanina Nuraga. Spectacular. Aravi Sunichena Christmas. Aravi Suhishuna Amanina Amanadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadaram Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadishakamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Hoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kribayatavabada Pankaja Stija Duli Sadrushim Vachintaya Nainam Galadashu Daraya Varanam Gad Guru Dayagira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanamagrahane Bhavishyati Yugayatam. Thank you. Susayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahename Ashlishyava Padamritamanastumam Adarshanam Marmahata Karotuva Yatatava Vidadatu Lampato Mat Prananatastusa Eva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you've invested all your transcendental energies. They're not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind.